I represent a community in southeastern Minnesota that is about 65% covered in corn and soybeans right now. I've been tasked with representing the concerns of family farmers on this select committee and rural communities. It's clear to me that we can and must do more to promote economic growth in rural communities. Because if we don't, the small towns and communities that make this country such a special place to call home could be left behind.
I come from a 400-acre beef cattle and wine grape farm. I take incredible pride in that fact. My grandfather started the farm, and I am the third generation if I end up going back to the farm. Our agricultural communities and rural communities can have a bright future. They certainly have a future, as they're the industry that feeds our nation, but it's a question of what that future looks like.
Rural development invests in people because human capital is the thread that holds markets together. Without it, everything unravels. Lack of staff, both time and experience, is one of the greatest barriers to accessing rural development programs. Thankfully, the bipartisan infrastructure law helped address some of that. Congress helped rural development change it by providing set-aside funding in Reconnect for staffing, technology, and technical assistance that helps applicants, all applicants, access Reconnect loans and grants.
Black folks in the Black rural South have been excluded in this country for a very long time. And we have an opportunity right now with IIJA, with the investments that you all have approved and with the investments that we have the opportunity to make in the future, to really change the trajectory for folks in those communities.
From birth to end of life, it is more difficult to access the care you need in rural areas. Inequities in health and mortality are important in their own rights. They also inhibit economic growth and prosperity, which can lead to additional health disparities in a vicious cycle of economic and health inequity. But rural areas also have considerable strengths. Rural residents and organizations can be incredibly resourceful and innovative. Many rural areas also have particularly strong social capital. This social fabric provides a tapestry on which strong health and healthcare can be built.
It's really important to think about the economics of rural America as well as agriculture itself. And as we move toward a new farm bill, I think it's really important for us to think about the economics of rural America and agriculture.
Necessity has always been the mother of invention, and automation is creating that necessity across rural America today. However, that necessity must be met with strategic public resources to ensure the great work Congress has done to expand access to connectivity will translate into restoring an economic equilibrium across the nation.
When you start talking about topics like trade, you come to understand how massively important our rural areas and our agricultural areas are to the economy. Isolation and a lack of connection and a variety of other factors lead to too many of our rural areas being on one side of that extreme of disparity.
What is going on in our rural communities right now is really challenging. I appreciate you calling this hearing, Mr. Chairman. There's a lot of issues that are playing out, and they're culminating in many ways. I do have to touch on one of them, which I think is really pertinent right now, and it's some of the rising costs that are impacting our farmers, and uniquely so. I think it's really pertinent that we have representation from the administration here, that the administration looks closely at that, because our farmers right now today are suffering. It's a difficult issue, but I think one that's very worth our time to be thinking about.
An ecosystem of rural communities goes beyond just agriculture. It comes down to whether or not folks have access to health care nearby. It comes down to transit and transportation. It comes down to many factors.
I believe that the solution starts with education, ensuring that all students feel that they have the same opportunity, feel that they can conquer the challenges that they face, and seek any opportunities post-secondary without facing hurdles that they cannot control. Whether it be a child facing difficulties in an inner city or a child in the middle of Appalachia facing difficulties, we need to make sure they have a future they can look forward to, a future that we can create, a future that starts with economic and infrastructural development within our rural communities.
You can feel the power of place when it comes to rural, the pride of place, and the people who choose to be there. And it takes that collaboration that is so present in rural places to make sure we have their back.